Sorry?
Yes, we're ready to start.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to call this meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. All individuals entering city-operated facilities, including City Hall, are required to wear a non-medical face mask. Those at the table are not required to wear masks while sitting, as long as they're distanced 6 feet from anyone else. Once you leave your seat at the table, you must put your mask back on. As directed by Manitoba Health, we are requesting people avoid close contact within 2 meters with anyone showing symptoms of a respiratory illness, such as coughing or sneezing. If you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, we are requesting that you excuse yourself from the room. Just getting to the right page. My name is Marla Billinghurst. I will be chairing the meeting this morning. With me today is Mr. Stuart McPherson and Mr. Doug Marks. The secretary this morning is Ms. Kara Belshaw, and the assessor is Mr. Arif Dos Mohammed. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision, and the Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record, and use of cell phones is not permitted except by the approval of myself, the chair. The first matter on the docket this morning is 1690 Church Avenue, and Ms. Belshaw will now swear in the parties.
State your name. Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please state your name.
Jared Story.
Do you affirm the evidence you present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Assessor, please proceed when you are ready.
Good morning, everybody. Board of Revision file number 20-511, roll number 140646503000. Address is 1690 Church Avenue. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $5,552,000. And I'll just note that in 2020, there was no appeal for the same value. So the parcel use is an industrial warehouse. Number of buildings is 1. Number of premises is 1. Number of stories is 1. Actual year built and effective year is 1975. Wall heights are approximately 23 feet. Zoning is M2, general manufacturing. The land area is 118,279 square feet. Land area is 53,855 square feet. There is no basement. Gross floor area and leasable area is 63,705 square feet. Land to plan area is 2.2 to 1. So just going to page 3. Those are my rent comparables. You'll notice that I had a lot of comparables there. I had to go outside the area because the building was so big. There wasn't that much in the area. So I did go into market region 4, 5, and 2, whereas the subject is in market region 1. So you'll notice that all comparables are industrial properties. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective ages range from 1960 to 2008. Wall heights range from 20 feet to 28 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 47,500 square feet to 64,000 square feet. Net rents range from $6 to $8.70 per square feet. So if you look at the comparables, comparable number 3, 58 Hutchins, and comparable number 9, 190 Almonds Creek, those are in the same market region 1. The land to plan areas for those two are 1.74 to 1 for 58 Hutchins and 1.96 for 190 Almonds Creek. And the wall heights are similar, ages are similar, and you'll see that they support our rent per square feet, which they are renting for $6.75 and $6.23 per square foot. On the following page, page number 4, is our workup. So we're using an overall net rental rate of $6.59 per square foot. To be fair and equitable, we're allowing for 3.5% vacancy loss, even though most of the building is owner occupied. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses as per our non-recoverable study on page 17. We're allowing for a vacancy shortfall of $3.75. This gives us an NOI of $388,659. We're using an overall cap rate of 7% to take into account the age and condition and the location of the subject. This results in a rounded capitalized value and assessed value of $5,552,000. So on page 8 is the map of the subject. Underneath that is the parcel boundaries. And then on page 9, I have some diagrams from the field notes. Page 11 is the overhead view of the subject from the front and the back. And then on page 12 is the side view. And at the bottom is the street views of the subject. So given the state of the industrial real estate market in Winnipeg over the last several years, where there have been more users than available space, as per my appendix pages 2, 4, and 6 from external sources evidence, we believe the assessed value of $5,552,000 to be fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value, and I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, do you have questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Now, just the first thing you mentioned is that it wasn't appealed in 2020. Just to be very clear, this is a new client for us, so that would be immaterial. Okay, so just going through your evidence here, you have on the first page that this is a 1-story building. Is that correct?
That's what we have, yes.
But it's a 2-story building,
I think there's a mezz, yes.
Well, there's 10,000 square feet of office on the second floor. Have you visited this property?
No, I haven't. We can't visit any properties because of COVID.
Okay. Now, the actual year built is 1975, and the effective year is 75. So would that indicate to you that no substantial or permitted work has been done in order to change the effective year of this property?
I didn't see any permits on it, so I don't think there has been.
Okay, and we've got an M2 zoning, but our land to plan is 2.2 to 1. Is that not incredibly low by today's standards?
No, M2 zoning allows for light manufacturing, processing service, storage, wholesale, and distribution with some limited outside operations and storage.
Okay, and so you're suggesting that a manufacturing enterprise doesn't require turning radials and storage.
That's not me. I'm saying zone 2 is doesn't allow for a lot of storage outside.
So you're suggesting that only M3 zone properties require
Correct.
plan to plan?
Well, no, but if you notice my comparables, I have M2 zonings in there with even lower land to plan ratios.
Right, but from a market standard, we don't generally see 2.2 to 1 for the current stock of new properties that are coming on.
We have a lot of inventory that's zoned M2, which is similar to 2.2 and in that range of land to plan area.
Okay, and you mentioned the M1 or the M2 zoning, but it's not materially different from the M1 zoning, is it?
It's slightly, but
So,
not very much. M2 there is very limited outside usage.
no, M2 says some
Sorry,
limited
M1,
outside operations and storage. M1 says some limited outside storage. So really, we don't
with
see
all
a difference.
operations contained within an enclosed building.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, are you aware that the owner needs to lease parking from the neighboring property based on this low land to plan?
No, I wasn't assessing any other buildings on this row.
No. Okay. All right. Now, in terms of page 2, subject sales history. Just to be clear, this property did change hands in 2014. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I didn't have the history for that.
Okay. All right, let's go through your rent comps. I've provided a fairly substantial rebuttal document, but I can just speak to this as we go through them if you'd like. You've all been provided that.
If you can maybe shed some light on the sale. You said it sold in...
Changed hands. Quebecor Media was sold to Post Media. That was all over the...
But it's not. It's a non-arm's length transaction, I would assume, right?
It's not non-arm's length.
Is Post Media, do they own or the other way around? Sorry, who did it change?
Post Media purchased Quebecor. Prior to that, it was Sun Media. It's 2014. Regardless, that may not be, not sure about the details of that sale, but I just want to point out that it did change hands. Okay. Now let's go through your rent comps. Now you mentioned that you've provided 9 rental comps, but only one of them is in the Inkster Industrial Park.
No, there is comparable one. Well, maybe in the industrial Inkster Park, but the market region is 1. So Logan 2240 Logan is market region 1. 58 Hutchings is market region 1.
You're not suggesting the 2240 Logan is in the Inkster Industrial Park, are you?
It's in the same market region.
Okay. It's also built in the year 2000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then 310 Debates is built in 08, 1680 Notre Dame is 2002.
But I'm not using those. If you look at the net rent per square foot, I'm not using anywhere near those net rents. I'm just included those comps in there because they were leased at a larger leasable area.
And all of your values today are for this property are market or model derived?
Our workup?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, but these inputs affect the model, do they not?
Sure.
Okay, so you're using properties, just so we're very clear, they're out of
these
region.
comparables are chosen by me, not the model.
Okay, perfect. So let's talk about them. 2240 Logan, again, built in the year 2000, superior.
And we're not utilizing that one. Our rent, our overall rent rate is $6.59.
Okay, so you're not using that one. Which ones are you using?
Well, 58 Hutchins, I pointed out, and
Okay.
190 Almonds Creek.
Okay, so 58 Hutchings I used as well. I don't have a big problem with that, but I will suggest that the wall heights are superior. Can we agree on that?
Do you know what the land, yes, it's 27, but the subject is 23, so I don't think it's very superior. It's
Okay, and the effective year built is superior. Can we agree on that?
it's within the range.
And the loading is at the front of the property. Is that correct?
Correct. And do you know what the land to plan ratio is
Yeah, I
on
think
that?
it's 1.75 to 1. So it's lower. But I thought you said that our land to plan was inconsequential unless we're talking about M3.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I don't agree with that, but that's fine. Now let's go to 190 Almonds Creek. Now again, that's built in 1997. Our subject is 1975.
Sorry, I'll just point out with 58 Hutchings, that's also abuts the rail line, just like the subject.
Right.
And same with the 190 Almonds.
Okay, perfect. It abuts a rail line, that's right. Now, the wall heights are superior at Almonds Creek, and it is a newer property, correct?
I wouldn't say the wall height is superior. It's only 2 feet higher. It's a more recent build.
1997 versus 1975.
Correct.
Now, you'd mentioned the parcel. Is it safe to say that our subject is built on an irregular parcel?
Yes.
Okay, and it is hemmed in by a rail line on 2 sides, correct?
Yes.
So that would impede future development. Is that safe to say?
Well, it has so much land to plan reach.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving on to your evidence here. Okay. Now that 7% cap rate, that is model derived as well.
Yes.
So, do we consider the regular parcel? Do we consider the rail influence? Do we consider the land to plan?
Age, condition, and location is what we consider.
Okay, so we don't consider some of these other elements that might increase the risk.
Well, location may have some of that.
Okay, now you'd mentioned that there was an error versus the 2 stories and the 1. Would that make a difference in terms of how the model generates the cap rate for this asset?
It's leasable area. It's how it's we are assessing by. It's so total leasable area.
Now, from your perspective, does the market see a higher risk profile for a single tenant property that has over 50,000 square feet of gross leasable area?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, from a market view, when we have a single tenant property with 50,000 square feet of gross leasable area, does the market see that as a positive or a negative in terms of its risk profile?
I would say it's whatever the tenant requires is what they will lease. So obviously it's been leased. There's other buildings that are leased at that size for where they only have 1 tenant. So no, I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, and so in your evidence, you have the broker's tables on page 6. But it looks like the brokers do see an increased risk on, oh, actually, they don't have single versus multi. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's okay. Let's just keep moving on here. But just to be clear, the broker studies indicate cap rates for single tenant A from 6.5 to 7.25. And it doesn't look like they differentiate between single tenant A and single tenant B, correct?
Correct.
And then we see industrial A's from CBRE, it's 6 to 6.5, industrial B's to 6.5 to 7.25, and for Cushman, 6.5 to 7, and for B's 7 to 7.75. From your perspective, from a broker's rating, would this property be applied an A rating or a B rating?
We don't apply any ratings. We have 1 cap rate for industrial, so and it's a range. There's no industrial A or industrial B.
Right, and I see that you've said that the
so
range
I'm
for
not
everything,
sure how the brokers.
So you're not sure?
No.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the irregular parcel on page 8. That's fine. We've talked about the rail line. Now we've got on page 9. You said these are field notes. These are. This looks like an occupancy sketch from 1976. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, 84, I believe.
76. If you look at the bottom of it, it's dated 1976. July 7th,
84 at the bottom.
7/7/76. It says. Okay. Now we've got the Google Maps. We've got the income and expense. Now, in terms of your cap rates here in your cap rate study, is there one of these cap rates that would be most applicable or most appropriate when we're talking about this property?
Sorry?
Is there one of these cap rates in your study, page 16?
No, these are a sample of the cap rates that we have taken. Our cap rate for the property is 7%.
Is 7%.
So the sampling just goes to support our cap rate evidence.
Can you explain that statement to me?
Well, if you read the top here, the following is a sample of actual sales that took place during the reference period. The purpose for showing these individual cap rates is to illustrate the accuracy of the model and substantiate the model-derived cap rates. They are not to be comparable specific to the subject property.
That's interesting. So 333 debates sold for 7.44, correct?
Mhm.
But in the last assessment, the model applied 6.5 to it.
I'm not sure. I don't have that
Okay.
info.
And 90 Park Lane, just so we're clear, that property sold unencumbered, it sold vacant, is that correct?
I believe so. Before it sold vacant, there was a lease in place. So I know you're going to say, how can you derive a cap rate when it's vacant? But there was a lease in place before.
No, I know that you would have likely imputed the NOI, right?
Correct.
Now, when you imputed the NOI, and this is just an interesting question, I guess it's related to timing, did you provide any erosions to the effective gross income when you were
I didn't do
imputing?
the cap rate study. So
Okay, and just so we're very clear, 1100 Waverly is the Fort Garry Business Center. That's not what we would call a typical industrial property.
sure, it
is
is. It's industrial. It's in the industrial zone. There's industrial properties in there. It's multi-tenant.
It's multi-tenant. It was built between 74 and 76, but fully renovated in 2014. It has a number of government tenants. It also has fitness centers. It has a licensed Chinese food place. It has a restaurant in it. So that's probably not typical. And it did sell with those high AAA covenant leases, and it sold renovated. So saying that it's 1974 is probably not reasonable, right? Okay. Now, page 17, non-recoverable expense sampling. We only have one industrial property in here that we can see. Is that correct? That's Index 1, Paramount Road. And what is the civic address of that?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, and you have no calculations, no supporting documentation?
I didn't do these studies.
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine. Okay, and then in your section here, your appendix, external industry reports and supporting evidence. This is interesting. So they talk about the strength of the market, but they also talk about the fact that the demand for these new industrial properties was actually met by the rural municipalities. So in terms of the new properties that are coming on stream in Rosser or at Centerport, would you say that would cause more risk?
Maybe not. It's post-reference, so I'm not sure where they're getting where they're going with that. But there may be properties coming up after the fact. But if you notice on page 2 appendix, the highlighted section I have there, the industrial market in Winnipeg continues to be a market with, to be a landlord's market with available products still at a minimum. So
right, and the big the demand at this point was for small bay industrial, correct?
Sorry.
Small bay industrial. It says about the 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph down. Winnipeg small bay market, ranging from roughly 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, continues to be highly active with limited product available, correct?
Sure. Okay,
and then the other interesting thing here is that it says any industrial options with excess land or yard space are even more desirable. So it looks like the market does put some premium on land to plan, correct? On land to building ratios.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it does say, just not to belabor this, but in the outlook section, that's the final paragraph on that page. It says the largest tract of new industrial land is located in the Centerport area, just outside the city limits. And then we also talked about Brookside Industrial Park. So there's a lot of new product coming on stream in Rosser and in Centerport. And that Centerport development was known, it's not post-reference, that was known about in, I think, back to 2012.
Okay, I'll just point out, since you're looking at this study, if you look at the average asking rents, 7 to 760 from 2016 to 2017, you could see that we're lower than that.
Right, and what's interesting too, because I'm sort of looking at this from a cap rate perspective, from a market view, we see that the Inkster industrial area has some of the lowest rents. It looks like Central would have the lowest, Transcona would be the second lowest, and then followed by Inkster.
So you're looking at the same study, Krishna?
Yeah, I'm looking at your evidence.
Okay, so there's also other supporting evidence. Mm-hmm. If you look on page page 8.
Appendix 8, yeah.
Appendix page 8. So that's Winnipeg Northwest.
Yeah.
You see the vacancy rates there in the middle, summary of statistics.
Mm-hmm.
You see the average asking rents there. Mm-hmm. You can still see that we're lower than those rents.
Right, that's an asking rent, right? Just to be clear. That's an asking rent, right, that's not an achieved rent, right?
Well, yes.
Okay, so when we look at it's interesting that you mentioned this, because when we look at the The rents, based on what you've submitted here, the rents in the Inkster industrial part are generally low, and the vacancy is generally high. So from an investment perspective, would that not be tantamount to more risk as opposed to less?
Actually, vacancy's gone down between quarter two and quarter four.
Sure, but I'm okay.
And rent is going up. Asking rent is going up.
Right. You've provided this industrial market snapshot. This is Appendix 12.
12, yes.
And we see the vacancy. It is going down, but it is the highest in the city based on this study.
Based on that study, yes.
Okay. Well, you've included this. And then the rents are, looks to be that the rents are, they would be the lowest, would they not? Oh, sorry, second lowest to Central.
$744 is the average net rent.
And the lowest is in Central at $691. So just my question is, from a market perspective, if somebody were to look at the Winnipeg industrial market and they looked at the Northwest and they said, well, the vacancy is higher here and the rents are lower, would that not be tantamount to an increased risk profile?
No.
No. Okay. All right. And just to be very clear, the properties that are coming on stream in the RMs, there's no business tax, correct? So that would be a substantial advantage.
I don't know about other RMs.
You don't know that there's no business tax in the RMs?
I don't know what they're charging or what their tax rates are or their mill rates, so I'm not sure.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Marks, do you have any questions?
My question has been answered, thank you.
Mr. McPherson?
I don't think I do. Maybe just clarification on the cap rate, if you would, please. It seems to be somewhere in the middle. Is there in the middle of the range that the city is using? Is there any reason for that? Why it's not at the high end or low end?
We would have looked at the properties in that area, in the Inkster area, and in close proximity to the subject, and that's how the model had picked the cap rate.
I see. So this isn't broken down by market region or anything of that sort. This is just overall for the city. That's the range.
No. It would have looked at that market region in the industrial Inkster. And then
no. I'm sorry. Let me clarify that. What I'm saying is on your chart on page 6, when you've got the city of Winnipeg, the low and high.
Correct. Yes.
That's for the entire city.
Right.
So it doesn't break it down by market region. And you're saying this market region 4, I believe, is what you said this was in.
This one is in market region 1.
Market region 1. Okay, I'm sorry, but we can't determine what market region 1 cap rates are from this chart, can we?
No.
Okay, thank you. And the 20th percentile and the 80th percentile, can you just explain what significance that is?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is most of the cap rates in the city of Winnipeg fall between 6.34 and 7.8. And then there's some outliers. If you were to include the outliers, they would range, all the cap rates would range from 5.5 to 9.8.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. I have no questions. So, Mr. Story, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. So here we are at 1690 Church Avenue in the Inkster Industrial area. This is the Winnipeg Sun building, built in 1975 with a leasable area of 63,705 square feet. Now it is a 2.2 to 1 land to building. We had entered it incorrectly based on including the second floor at 1.86, but I do note that it is 2.2. The reference date is April 1 of 2018, and the city is suggesting a value of $5,552,000. We are requesting $4,734,000. So we can best describe this property as a freestanding office and distribution warehouse, currently being used as a head office, a printing press, and distribution center for the Winnipeg Sun newspaper. The improvements were originally built in 1975. Its masonry was steel frame, 5-inch hardened concrete slab floors, and we have 53,860 square feet on the plan, with 9,845 square feet on the second floor. The warehouse portion of the building has a span height to the bottom of the roof joist of 21 feet. So we talked about the second floor space. Of the 17,435 square foot main floor office component, over half of it is considered low quality office. I visited this property personally about maybe a month ago, and I've included a number of my photos, and I can confirm that it is indeed low quality office, and it is true to its vintage. It has not been renovated. And much of it is being used for manufacturing purposes, such as typesetting, photo labs, web stripping, and cameras. Now, when the property was constructed, there was a more typical percentage of office finish, but that was expanded to suit the specific needs of the occupant. As we all know, the print media business has seen a decline in a number of years, so there's what would be considered a super adequacy for the market is now an increased super adequacy for the actual tenant as well. So a lot of the area that is in that property is being used as storage, and you can see I did a walkthrough of the property and took photos of everything. You'll be able to see that, and we'll get to that at the end of my brief. Okay, and we did note that the parcel is irregular, and that the south and the west sides are impacted by a rail line, which would certainly be seen by the market as a negative influence. The remainder of the property is predominantly warehouse space with an effective ceiling height of 21 feet, divided by concrete walls into separate press room areas, warehouse and distro areas, and it is heated by suspended gas-fired heaters. There are 8 loading doors. Again, we're situated on 118,320 square feet of land. It is zoned M2, and we do result in an extremely low land to building ratio of 2.2 to 1. The land size is insufficient for the current occupant, and I did mention that the parking space has to be leased at the adjacent property. You can see a sort of crude arrow on my brief that shows the kitty corner to the property. That's where the owner rents parking from. Okay, so as we mentioned, at the reference date, the property was owner occupied, so we had to look to the market to determine a fair and equitable net market rent. So the comps that we used were all in the Inkster industrial area. They were all built between 1970 and 1990. Some of them were superior, but that's fine. We've had to use properties that were of similar vintage, generally a similar land to plan where possible, similar ceiling heights, and that's what we've done here. So from our 4 rental comps, we come to an average rent of $586 with a median of $585. So for the purpose of this exercise, we are applying a rate of $6 per square foot in our calculation. Vacancy, for the purpose of this report, is 3.5%. I don't believe that's in dispute, nor is the shortfall at 3.75 per square foot. Now, in terms of our non-recoverable expenses, for the purpose of this report, we do continue to apply an allowance of 7% as an erosion of the effective gross income. And that's based upon a standard allowance of 2% of the structural reserve and 5% as a stabilized allowance for non-recoverables. That's based on the expenses that arise in the competent management and operation of a property. I have submitted my detailed submission. I can speak to that, but I think we're all generally aware of our position on the 5% non-recoverable erosion of the effective gross income. For the reasons set forth in this cap rate study, which has also been provided to you, and the summary is in my brief, we see investment grade properties being applied a cap rate of 6.25% to 7%. Investment B categories from 7% to 7.5%, and non-investment grade properties in general, we apply a baseline of 8% to the cap rate, and that's based on our findings of the Altus cap rate study that's been provided to you in full. So for this property, we're submitting that a rate of no less than 7.25 ought to be applied. We believe that this reflects the exceptionally low land to building, the ceiling heights, lack of adequate parking, the inferior quality of finish, the super adequate amount of office area on both the first and the second floors, and the current configuration of the building as a single occupant facility. Now we do note that the current design has generally worked for this tenant, but there is a higher degree of risk should this property ever be put on the free and open market. And a market view would certainly provide an upward adjustment to the risk profile of this property for the reasons that we've discussed here today. So again, we're suggesting 7.25 is appropriate and have used it in our calculation. So with all these points taken into consideration, we come to an indicated market value at the April 1, 2018 reference date of $4,734,439, rounded to $4,734,000. If you follow me to my appendix, you can see the exterior of the property. Now, this was September of 2020, so I was just there. I had a unique opportunity to tour the property with a fellow who's been there since 1983. So he knows this property, I would say, better than anybody. And he gave me an insight into some of the issues they face. There's some maintenance issues that need to be taken care of, and that's not completely atypical of a property that's been owner occupied for this long. So you can see the exterior. I show some of the loading bays. You can see that some of the newspaper boxes that are in need of repair are stored outside behind the building. Interestingly, actually, there's a photo there of a small truck, and what they've done is some of the chemicals that are used in the printing process need to be disposed of, and code regulates that they ought to be in a separate room, but this property does not have that. So the workaround is to dedicate one of the loading bays to putting those chemicals in the back of that truck. So that's what that is. Now you can see at the front desk, behind the front desk, you walk up to the second floor. You can see the quality of office space is I would call that utility grade. It's not fancy. And then of course there's storage throughout, and these are areas that would have been used in the past as more typical office, logistics, distribution, things like that. A lot of empty space in this property. And if you just flip through, you can see the warehouse. And then we go to the main floor lunchroom. You can see standard, very 1970s style lunchrooms and general areas. The second floor executive offices are pictured as well, along with the newsroom. And some of the other lunchroom area on the second floor, and the washrooms. And yeah, so I'll leave that for you to peruse. I've also got additional information about my rent comps. So just very quickly, the first one on Inkster is built between 70 and 75. Ceiling heights are similar at 22 feet, but it was extensively redeveloped in 2015. The land to building ratio is 2.5 to 1, which is similar but superior. And the rent per square foot in there is $5.75. Index 2 is Hutchings, which we spoke about. Again, built in 89, 27-foot wall height, slant to plan of, I have 1.71 here, and the rent there is 6.75. Index 3 is on Mountain, built in 81, renovated in 14. Now the land to plan there is more typical of what we're seeing in the market at 5.4 to 1, 22-foot wall heights, and an irregular parcel as well, which is interesting. But the rent in that property is $5.95. And then we go to Mountain, finally. That's a building that's built in 77, 1.86 land to building, which is inferior to our property, but the wall heights are 29 feet, and we see rents in there at $5 per square foot. So with all these points in consideration, as part of our analysis, we do respectfully submit that a value of $4,734,000 for this property is appropriate, and we do ask that the value be adjusted. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Assessor, do you have questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Your comp number 1, 1750 in Inkster?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the rent listed there until March 31st, 2021, but are you aware that the rent had increased in April 1st, 2018?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The rent at April 1st, 2018, do you know what that rent was?
The rent at April 1st of 2018?
Yes.
No, not off the top of my head. This is the rent that I have here.
Yeah, that's actually wrong. The rent then was $6.25 as per their income expense mailer. So the lease it must be a step-up lease, but the value you have there is incorrect.
Do you have something that supports that?
I'm under oath, so I'm verbally stating that. And in regards to your, did you say you're using $6 per square foot for your net rent, or $6.13?
We're applying $6 per square foot.
So why are you using $6.13 in your calculation? Or $6.15, sorry?
So we're using $6.15.
If you divide your potential net income by your square foot, it's $6.15.
Oh, no, you're correct. That would be an error. So I guess we're using 615, which is further supported by our submission then.
Those are all the questions I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marks.
On this building, has there been any upgrades since 1975, the build date?
It would appear that there's general maintenance that's gone on, but in terms of renovations, no, because it's been the same tenant since 83. The son's been there since 83. So I walked through the building and no, it has not been upgraded. I'm sure that there's been standard repair and maintenance here and there, but not what we call a substantial renovation.
No building permits have been taken out on this?
I didn't check that, so I'd be speculating.
Thank you. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. McPherson.
Just a couple of clarifications more than anything on page 7, your market rent comparables. First of all, number 3, Mountain Avenue. You've got a heading there for ED rent, Y, and then rent step up. What's the significance of the ED rent Y? I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, I'm sorry. That just cut off. That would say stepped rent. So
Oh, it's stepped rent.
Yeah, that just cut off in our columns there. Yeah, but that would be stepped rent, and then
Okay, so what you're saying is from October 1st, 15 to September 30th of 20, it's a $5.95,
that's correct.
and then there will be a step up after that, but it's post-reference, so you didn't include that.
Well, it shows that this is a stepped rent, so presumably that tenant has been in that premise for some time, and as part of their leasing agreement, there was a step that occurred at October 15th. I don't know if there's a step of renewal coming after that, but this is the rent that was in place at the time of at the reference date. Yeah.
Oh, so that is a step rent, so the lease is actually prior to 2015 then, the original lease.
The original lease would have been signed prior to 2015, yes.
Okay, so that is a step rent on a longer term lease of more than 10 years, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned something about the office space, the quality of it and the amount of it on the subject property. How do these comparables compare to that as far as what percentage office space they have and what's the quality of the office space?
Now I would be speculating. I have not been inside these properties, but I do know that what I can tell you, I do know about the interior of Index 1. And I know that was substantially renovated. I actually recall, I know a fair bit about that building. Actually, there was an office area at the front, and it was completely demised and reconfigured. So that would, just based on its vintage, would certainly be of a higher grade. Now, in terms of the amount of office finish, I would suggest that this property has more office finish that is required by the market based on the fact that it was because it's a newspaper operation. So that generally has required more office space. But as I'd mentioned, as time has gone on, we see the print media business requiring less and less. So there's what I would call a super adequate amount of office space to begin with, and now it's likely even super adequate for the existing tenant. And you can see that if you go through my brief, there's a lot of that demised office space that's actually just being used as storage.
Okay, and to get back to your index number 1, you mentioned it was substantially renovated. Could that have any bearing on the fact that the rent increased in 2018?
Sorry.
I think the assessor mentioned that rent of $575 was the original rent, but it stepped up in 2018?
No, that property was, hold on, that property was renovated. That's a post-rental rent. So I'm not sure, I don't have anything here that shows that that rent is inappropriate or is not.
Well, I don't know whether it was after April 1, 2018. I don't think we heard that. So I don't know whether you can make that statement and it's post-reference.
Well, I know that this property was renovated in 2015.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I thank you. And the 7.25% cap rate, can you just reiterate what your reasoning for 7.25% is, please?
Sure. So, of course, we have to use our best judgment here. If we suggest that this is a B grade property, which is likely, it would be, I think it's fair to say it's probably a strong B, but we do have a number of issues with this property. We have the low land to building ratio. It can't be remediated based on the fact that this property is irregular and it's hemmed in on two sides by a rail line. That's a major issue. The property needs to be renovated, quite frankly, if it were to go with market. So if we're using a baseline of 7%, providing an upward adjustment of 25 basis points, I think that's very conservative. A market view might see more risk in this property, but we are starting from a baseline of 7% to 7.75, and we're suggesting that it would be I guess based on our study here, it would be a strong B as opposed to an A.
I thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you. My question has been asked and answered, so thank you very much. And I guess we can move on to the next property. Okay, 1 minute, please. Get there. Okay, the next matter is 1625 Brookside Boulevard. Mr. Assessor, please proceed when you are ready.
Okay, so Board of Revision file number 20-480. Roll number is 14096621400. Address is 1625 Brookfield Boulevard. Roll year is 2020. Reference date is
Brookside.
sorry.
Brookside Boulevard.
Sorry, sorry. 1625 Brookside Boulevard. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $701,000. And I'll just note in 2018, 2019, the property was assessed for $618,000, and it was not appealed at that time. Parcel use is industrial warehouse. Number of buildings is 1. Number of premises is 1. Number of stories is 1. Actual year built is 1978. Same with the effective year built, 1978. Wall height is 16 feet. Land area is 27,776 square feet. Plan area is 7,720 square feet. The gross floor area and leasable area is again 7,720 square feet. Land to plan area is 3.621. So this property is fully owner occupied. On page 3, there are my comparables. All comparables are industrial properties. All comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. That's market region 1. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective ages range from 1969 to 2007. Wall heights range from 10 feet to 20 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 6,200 square feet to 10,000 square feet. And the net rents range from $6.25 per square feet to $10.68 per square feet. On the following page is our workup. So we're utilizing an overall net rent of $6.28 per square feet. To be fair and equitable, we're allowing 3.5% vacancy loss, even though the subject is owner occupied. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses, allowing for a vacancy shortfall of $3.75 per square feet. This gives us an NOI of $44,836. We're utilizing an overall cap rate of 6.4% to take into account the age, condition, and location of the subject. This results in a rounded capitalized value and assessed value of $701,000. And then on page 8 is the map of the subject. Below that is the parcel boundaries. And then on page 9, there's the overhead view of the subject. And then page 9 is the street view of the subject. So on page 10, I have the income expense statement that was sent in. You can see it's the owner is a numbered property and the tenant is a name, but this is a non-arm's length lease. So yeah, again, given the industrial real estate market in Winnipeg, there is more space, more users than there is available space. As per our highlights on page 2, 4, and 6 in the appendix, we believe that the assessed value of $701,000 to be fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, do you have any questions?
Just a few, thanks. Okay, I know we can't go inside properties, but have you visited the exterior of this property?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I guess this is a very interesting scenario. Are you aware that this property is on the exact border of the RM of Rosser in the city of Winnipeg?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Do you think that might be a negative from a next prudent investor's perspective?
I'm not sure.
If you cross the street to Oak Point Highway, there's no business tax. It's kind of amazing. Okay.
So why has the owner not sold the building and moved to? How long has he been there?
I'm not sure. The actual year built is 78. Effective year is 78. Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and this is a rigid steel property, typical of light manufacturing, small manufacturing. That's a kind of building we see throughout Winnipeg in the older industrial supply. Correct.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. And that's a 16-foot wall height.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you have a chance to review the business assessment for this property?
I did.
Okay. Did you notice that there's only 680 square feet of finished space?
Yes.
Okay. That's about 8% of this property. It's a very, very small amount of finished area. Now, in the interest of narrowing our issues, I'm applying 625. You're applying 628 on the rent. So I don't know if we need to belabor this, but is it fair to say that 251 Oak Point is probably our best comparable?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay, so we're in range. That's fine. Now, on page 4, are all of the inputs modeled?
Model driven, yes.
They are all modeled. Okay, and that's 6.4% cap. That's I'm particularly interested in that. That was model generated, correct?
Correct.
And does that take into account the location?
Yes.
It does. Specifically related to the proximity to the city limit?
Yes, it would have taken into account the age, condition, and location of the subject.
Okay. All right. Now, what's interesting here is on page 6, probably safe to say that a property like this would not be large enough or generate enough income to be captured in a broker's report. But if we just imagine that it would, do you think it would be applied at A or B rating?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and the city of Winnipeg's 20th and 80th percentile shows 6.34 to 7.8, correct? So at 6.4, this would be extremely low on that scale, wouldn't it?
It would be lower than that.
Yeah.
The 20th percentile.
But the brokers don't have anything below 6.5, and that's for, oh, sorry, they have a 6%, but that would be for an A, correct? Probably new building, good land plan, high ceilings, right?
Not sure how the brokers work their cap rates up.
Okay, and we've talked about your cap rate evidence here. That's fine. We've also talked about the so you're unaware of the modeling process or how that works with respect to the non-recoverables and the cap rate derivation. Is that correct?
Sorry?
So I'd asked you before about these cap rates.
Yeah, and I didn't do the study,
You
is
didn't do
what
the
I,
study.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but these are a sample of the, what we saw in the market.
Right. Okay. And I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Marks.
My question has been answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson.
Clarification on your statement, Mr. Assessor, when you said that location was taken into consideration for the cap rate. By that you meant the market region, not necessarily the location specific to the property?
Market.
Is that correct? It'd be the market region.
Correct, yes.
And there's how many market regions in the city?
There's 6.
6. Okay, so it wouldn't be 1/6 of the city because the market regions, I'm assuming, are of different shape and density.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So I believe the appellant's question was, did it take into consideration the fact that it's very close proximity to the city limits? You said location would be, but that would be not specific to the subject property.
No,
It's location within region,
yes.
within their market region.
Correct.
Okay, I thank you. That's my only question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson. I have no questions. So, Mr. Story, please proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Okay, 1625 Brookside Boulevard. This is a single tenant steel framed industrial structure built in 1978. Currently it's used as a farm equipment manufacturing facility. The site is generally unpaved. We have 16-foot ceilings. Again, considered very low by today's standard, but it does provide that the necessary utility to the owner. And the land to plan is reasonably low as well at 3.6 to 1. Now, as I had mentioned in my cross-examination, the Winnipeg Business Assessment, City of Winnipeg Business Assessment details indicate that the level of finish on this property is about 8% with only 680 square feet of air-conditioned space. Now, as I mentioned, the property is located on the east side of Brookside, just north of Lucas in the Oak Point Highway and Rosser area. Now, this is on the exact edge of the city limits. If you cross the street, the neighboring property is in the RM of Rosser. It is 10 feet away. So it is right on the border. In fact, if you look at my map, the aerial view, if you zoom out on that, where that vertical yellow road is, which is Oak Point, the city doesn't even have any properties there. It literally ends. That is the very, very end of the city limits. So obviously that is, we would consider that a negative, considering that if you were across the street, you'd be exempt from business taxes. So that would be a negative factor affecting this property. Now, again, we mentioned that this is an owner-occupied property. I won't belabor this. The city has modeled $6.28 per square foot. We have done an analysis of 5 rental indices, and we've come to an average of 623 with a median of 618. So we're using 625. We're within 3 cents. So I'll leave that in your hands. Vacancy is not disputed, nor is the shortfall. Where we do differ again is on the non-recoverables. We do believe that a 5% erosion to the effective gross income is typical of market behavior, and we are here today to determine the value from a market view. So an erosion to that effective gross income is consistent with market behavior, and we continue to apply it in our valuation. And again, these are expenses that arise in the competent management and operation of the property. In terms of this property, we've used a rate of 7%, which is supported by our cap study. Again, it's been provided to you in full, but are summarized in the small chart there as follows. So again, an A typically would be 6.25 to 7, a B 7 to 7.75, and non-investment grade properties would generally be applied an 8% cap rate. Now, this would certainly not be considered a an investment grade property. I don't think it's large enough or generates enough income for an institutional investor. That being said, we do believe that a cap rate of 7% is appropriate. It does provide a certain amount of utility for a certain function, and we recognize that. So the risk profile from our perspective, when we look at all things together, 7% seems reasonable. So with all these factors taken into consideration, we come to an indicated market value of $604,124, and we do respectfully submit that the value not exceed $604,000 for this assessment cycle. Barring any questions, that is my presentation. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assessor. Any questions?
So your comparables, those are net rents, correct?
Those are net rents, yeah.
So the owner would charge management fee on top of that?
Sorry, the owner would charge.
Or the landlord would be charging a management fee on top of that, I would assume.
I think you're confusing a management fee with a non-recoverable expense.
But there's a 5% non-management usually, or 4%?
Sometimes there's a management fee, but we're not talking about a management fee. We're talking about a non-recoverable expense.
So non-recoverables would include?
Non-recoverables would include any sort of expenses that are borne by an owner that are not captured by the tenant. So snow removal would be one. Leasing commissions are another. There's a whole raft of costs that are borne by an owner that are never recovered, and that's consistent with valuation theory. So the city up until this cycle has typically agreed with that, and the market continues to provide erosions to the effective gross income. So we maintain that a 5% erosion of the effective gross income is appropriate, as well as the 2% structural reserve. That is typical of market.
Have you visited the property?
Yes, I have. I visited every property on this docket today.
So you've gone inside and taken pictures?
Did not go inside.
Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marks?
No questions for me, thank you.
Mr. McPherson?
Just clarification on page 1 of your brief.
Yeah.
This must be in Rosser. It's 16,025 Brookside.
Yeah, no, 1620. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Okay. Just a typo, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for the record, it should actually be corrected to 1625, right?
The record is 1625 Brookside. I believe that's referenced throughout. But yeah, that's a typo on the front.
Yeah.
Just heavy finger on that one.
Yeah, I can understand that. And no, I don't think I have any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Story, can you just tell me again how many square feet were air conditioned?
680 square feet. Roughly 8% of the property, so it is mainly an unneeded warehouse space. Steel frame, rigid steel, typical industrial property from the late 70s.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my only question on this. There a need for summary?
Not for me. Thanks.
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps we'll take a short recess then.
Sure.
Before starting the next matter.
Okay, go ahead, Marla.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. The next property on the docket is 205 Melnick Road. Mr. Assessor, whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Board Revision File Number 20-484, roll number 0800583460. Address is 205 Melnick Road. It's located in Market Region 2. Roll year is 2021. Reference date is April 1st, 2018. Assessed value is $875,000. And I'll just give you a history of this assessment. The last appeal was in 2014, at which time the property was assessed at $667,000 and the applicant did not show. There was no appeal in 2020. So it's industrial building, number of buildings is 1, a premise is 1, number of stories is 1. Actual year built is 2009, same with the effective year, 2009. Wall height is 16 feet. It's zone M2, general manufacturing. Land area is 57,184 square feet. Plan area is 4,032 square feet. Gross floor area is 4,626 square feet. Same with the leasable area, 4,626 feet. Land to plan area is 14.18 to 1. On the following page, you'll see that the subject was sold originally in February 19th, 2008, and that was vacant land at that time, and the sworn value and the sale price was $200,000. That was 10 years prior to the reference date. If you look on page 11, there is a permit there for construction of the building, and the declared construction value on that was $262,080. And that permit was dated, that was from 2008, September 2008. So in 2008, they bought the land, they constructed the building for a total cost of $462,080. On page 3 are my comparables. So all comparables are in the same market region as the subject, market region 2. All comparables are zoned M1. Leases are current in relation to the reference date. The leased area ranges from approximately 31,000 square feet to 48,000 square feet. 3,100 square feet to 4,800 square feet. And the effective years range from 1956 to 2008. And the net rents range from $8 per square foot to $14.06 per square foot. And also the wall heights range from 12 feet to 18 feet. On the following page is our workup. So we're utilizing an overall net rent of $10.98. To be fair and equitable, we're allowing for 2.5% vacancy loss, even though the subject is fully owner occupied. We're allowing for 2% non-recoverable expenses. We're allowing for a vacancy shortfall of $3.75 per square foot. This results in an NOI of $48,099. We're utilizing a cap rate of 5.5% to take into account the age, condition, and market region of the subject. This results in a rounded capitalized value and assessed value of $875,000. And on page 8 is the map of the subject. It's located by the south perimeter. Underneath that is the parcel boundaries. And then on page 9 is there's a site plan of the subject and then overhead view. You can see there's quite a lot of space. I believe this is a auto sales place. And then on page 10 is the street view. So it looks like there is a mezz on the second floor, but for some reason, we only have the number of stories as 1. So given the state of the real estate industrial market in Winnipeg over the last several years, where there are more users than available space, as per my appendix on page 2, 4, and 6, from the external sources, we believe that the assessed value of $875,000 to be fair and equitable. And I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Story, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Okay, just to be very clear, you mentioned that there was a no-show in one of these appeals, is that correct?
Yeah, in 2014.
Okay, and that, just so we're all clear, that wasn't an Altus appeal, correct?
I don't believe the applicant was Altus.
It was not, okay. And you have 1 story, but it is indeed 2 based on that 6,000 square foot mezzanine?
Yeah.
All right, and the wall heights are 16 feet.
Sorry, 600, sorry, what did you say? How big was the
I'm sorry,
mezz?
600. Yeah,
Yes,
600,
okay.
yeah. Okay, and we've got a very good land to plan of 14 to 1, roughly?
Yeah.
Have you ever been down Melnick Road? Are you
I have,
familiar?
yes.
You have, and this is, we can agree, this is call this a Class B road, effectively. It's a gravel road.
It's a gravel road.
It's a gravel road. Is it typical for a, and you mentioned that this is a used car dealer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, is it typical for a used car dealership to be down a gravel road?
I have seen used car dealerships on gravel roads, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned the sales history. Now that vacant land sold for about $350 a square foot, is that right?
$200,000
Yeah.
was, I didn't work out the per square foot.
That's fine. Can we agree on some level there would be some access issues from the highway to get to this property?
There's I don't think there is access road. I know you have to make a U-turn to get to it if you're coming down.
And if you miss that U-turn, it's gonna
then
take you a
you
while
just
to,
do the roundabout.
you have to
I
loop
guess. Yeah.
back. Okay. All right. So now I just want to talk about your rent comps. Did you visit any of these comps?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay. What's interesting to me is I went to all of them. 601 Washington, that building no longer exists as the building that you're referencing here. Are you aware of that?
So on the reference date, it was there?
It looks like it was demolished in 2016. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. So just so we're clear, there's a new building standing there. So is this the old? Is this the new rent?
This would
or
be
the old rent?
4,800 square feet at 15 wall height. It was built in 1956. So if it was a newer building, I'm referencing the older building.
This is a reference to the old. This was a sunroom enterprise, right? Is that what it was?
Boysco?
Yeah.
Enterprise
No,
even?
Boysco is the new building. That's a brand new building.
Well, Boysco rented it, I guess, at the time before it was demolished. If it's demolished,
No,
I'm not
it's
sure.
two completely different.
I have an income expense statement saying
Yeah.
that it was Boyco Enterprises.
Well, okay, that's fine. But the present physical condition, it's a brand new building, so it's not.
I'm
this is-
referencing the 1956
Right,
year.
that is, just so we're clear, it is demolished. Now, the other question that I have for all of these comps is, they're all between 15 and 17 kilometers away, so why didn't you use something a little closer to the
They're in the
center?
market region, so that's what I used.
So even if something is a 20-minute drive away, we would still use that as a comp?
It's in the market region too, so
All right. Now Watt, that's interesting. That, I looked that up. There was a permit taken in 15 for a new occupancy. So that would be a fresh lease. Are you aware of any inducements that would have gone into creating space for a metal fabricator?
I'm only aware of what they reported on their income expense.
Is it a gross or a net lease?
It's net. All my
It
costs
is
are
net
net.
lease? Okay. All right, 1856 degrees, that's in Kilcona, correct? And that's a window and door store. It's primarily a retail showroom space.
Correct.
And you're aware that that's a sale and lease back transaction that occurred in 2010?
I know I wasn't aware of that. Like I said, I just have their income expense statement.
670 Raleigh, that's also non-arm's length. Are you aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Correct.
Do you have any evidence to show it is?
I got it here, actually. It's from my brief from 650 Mission. I know it's been presented a number of times to this board. The issue is it was Polar Windows owned it, and now they're the tenant. So I don't know what happened, but at some point something happened during the course of their tenancy where they own the building, sold it, and they remain as occupants. So it would be considered non-arm's length. In terms of your cap rate, that's modeled as well as all of the inputs here, I'm guessing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, the location we've talked about, would this be considered a negative from a market view, do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay. We don't have any cap rates below 6% in the broker study for investment grade, correct?
Sorry?
Page 6 of your brief. When we look at the broker studies,
Correct.
6 is the lowest, so 5.5, even for your own, that would be the absolute lowest possible. So I'm
Correct.
guessing that's.
I'm assuming that the brokers probably don't have all the sales in all of Winnipeg, whereas we probably do have most of them, since we have access to the land registry.
All right. But the market uses the brokers tables to develop.
The brokers know, but it is
Right.
in the higher percentile for our cap rate study.
Now, you have a permit on page 11, and that says the declared construction value is $262,000, correct?
Correct,
And the value of the land is $200,000, correct?
correct.
All right, and now the only comp here that I have, when I'm looking at your cap rate comps, I guess this is just a sampling, but is Watt might be the only one that's remotely comparable, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at those.
But just to be clear, that one's at 8%. It's a little bit older, but it is at 8%, right? $225 Watt in your study. Okay. Appendix 4. That's page 18 of the PDF. We see the cap rates. Again, this is from Colliers, and they're suggesting the cap rates ought to be somewhere between 6.25 to 7.25, correct?
Correct.
So this 5.5 would be extremely low.
Well, it's our cap rates. Like I said, we have sales from almost all buildings in the city.
Okay, and then the big question we have here is, not too long ago, the business assessment appeal on this property was heard by this board. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I didn't come across that. If you do have it, I'll take your word.
Yeah,
for
it's been
that.
submitted into my evidence. So you're not aware that this board,
No, I was not aware of that.
you're not aware that they ruled $8.50, and you're not aware if.
Oh, sorry. The amount. Yes, we did have this discussion over
Right.
email. Yes, yes.
Okay, and the city did not appeal that decision at
No, we
8.5
did not.
on the rent,
No.
$8.50 on the rents. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marks.
No questions for me, thank you.
Mr. McPherson.
Just clarification on the location. It's a gravel road that's accessed off the perimeter highway. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a service road.
Okay, and I think there was some mention of a U-turn. You have to use a U-turn if you miss it going one way. Did they not reconfigure the perimeter highway so that U-turn is no longer there? I thought they've recently done that within the last year or so, and we're looking at
Not sure
current.
what was done, but I was there to inspect another building where I did have to make the U-turn. So I'm.
And did you make the U-turn all the way down to St. Mary's Road? Is that where you had to do the U-turn?
So no, not all the way to. It was before Pembina. So if I'm going east, this is before Pembina, and I did make the U-turn to go onto the service road. So maybe
Going east. Well, it's
if you're
between.
going east on the perimeter before
Right.
you get to Pembina. There is a place to make a U-turn there.
Yeah, but Pembina would be west of.
Yeah. So if I'm going east before I get to Pembina, actually,
You mean before you get to 59?
yes, sorry, before I get to 59.
Right, but I believe that curb cut is now gone.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, and would that have any bearing on the marketability of the property if it's the accessibility or?
I guess there would be something, but if somebody was going there to do their business, I'm not sure if they would not go there because there's a U-turn or not a U-turn. But there may be something to be said about that, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So Mr. Story, please proceed when you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, we're on Melnick Road. It is a service road, and this property is built in 2009. And we've got a 4,032 square foot plan with a 543 square foot mezzanine. The city is suggesting a value of 875. Our analysis is indicating a value of 511,000 is more appropriate. So we're southwest of the perimeter and the Lauge overpass, and this is considered the Freight Point neighborhood of the new St. Vital market area. The property is classified as industrial, presently being used as a used car and trailer sales enterprise. Now, the property is accessed by a gravel road, and the subject lot is also unpaved. Structure is steel frame, again, gross leasable 4,032, mezz of 593 square feet. The degree of finish is presumed to be 14% based on the business assessment details, indicating 648 square feet of air-conditioned space, and the wall heights are 16 feet. I've been outside of this property, but an agent from our office did a full interior. I've included some of his photos here, and that was in relation to the business assessment that was heard just a few months ago. It would have been in July. So the property was owner occupied. So we looked at the market in order to determine a fair and equitable net market rent. We've used the same comps that were used in relation to the business assessment. These were accepted by the board, and the decision was not challenged. So you can see here that we've got a number of vehicle service related enterprises and an average rent of $854, a median of $850. I believe we were requesting a slightly lower rent at the in relation to the business assessment, but the board ruled at $850, and we were in accordance with that. So I think the rents on this property have been asked and answered. So we are suggesting $850 per square foot based on the uncontested board order on the business assessment. The vacancy is not contested at 2.5%. The shortfall is not contested at 3.75 per square foot. We've spoken about the non-recoverable expenses, and we do continue to apply them in our calculation. Now, the capitalization rate, the modeled rate is 5.5% in value in the subject. However, we believe this is too low. And for some of the reasons we've discussed today, we believe that a cap rate of no less than 6% should be applied in this case. So with all of those points taken into consideration, we believe that an indicated market value of $511,000, rounded from 510,707, is appropriate, and we do respectfully request that that value be adjusted to reflect some of these site-specific attributes of this property. Now, I've got the board order from July 22nd indicating the $8.50. Again, that has not been contested by our firm, nor has it been contested by the city. I've included the rent comp indices that were submitted as part of the BA, so they're here for your perusal. You can see that they're all now they're not, these are within the city. So in terms of access and visibility, they are generally superior, though our property is new. We do recognize that. Regardless, the $8.50 has been asked and answered, but based on some of the issues in terms of access, egress, the fact that it's on a service road, and a generally atypical location for this property, would suggest that the cap rate of 6% is reasonable. So again, with all those points taken together, we suggest a value of no more than $511,000 for this cycle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assessor. Any questions?
No questions, but I just want to clear up something I said earlier. The property I was thinking about where I had to do the U-turn was prior to 59, so it was before Pembina. So I was thinking of a different road altogether. My apologies.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So you have no questions though for Mr.
No, I
Story? Okay, thank you. Mr. Marks?
None for me, thank you.
Mr. McPherson?
Just a clarification on the cap rate. I'd like an explanation of why was there a base on this? You mentioned before there was a base with a percentage point adjustment. Is it the same situation here? Did you use a baseline and then make an adjustment for certain factors?
I think the fact that it's brand new, that it's owner occupied, that it's smaller, and it provides a specific use. It's not what we call a typical industrial property in that it's a car dealership or a used car dealership. 6% seems reasonable. It would be in line with the broker's study. So it is a little bit different from the other properties that we talked about today, just based on its use and its configuration. But so that's sort of how that would be at the low end of the scale at 6%. But again, it is new. The land to plan is very good. But again, the location would give pause to a next prudent investor.
Right. And all of your comparables that you're relying upon here, were they built for the specific purpose of selling used cars, or?
Well, they are all. Well, I know that some of them are not for used cars, some of them are for new cars. Some of them are vehicle service related in that they might be a brake shop or an auto body shop. So they're all vehicle service related. But we did try to look to enterprises that were related to vehicles as opposed to just a wider swath of industrial.
Thank you. Those are my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and I have no questions. So, gentlemen, is there a need for summary?
None here, thanks.
You said it all. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we will close the hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you.